The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Anthony Jackson. I'm a technical specialist here with TCP Software. Today we'll be looking at the TCP Aladtec Employee Scheduling and Workforce Management solution, and we'll be focusing on the EMS industry. Excuse me. Now we do accommodate other public safety industries, but today we're just focusing on EMS. So here's what we'll be covering today. We're going to be looking at the member database where we store all the member information, send messages, track and capture data, our schedule views, our customizable forms where we have more than 200 pre-made samples where you can make your own or just repurpose what we have, and our reports where you can get the information out of the system for your own purposes and a lot more. So let's get right into one of our own demo systems and we'll take a look at things. Okay, so right off the bat, when you subscribe to Aladtec, you're going to get your own keyword. That is aladtec.com, which is more than likely going to be your organization's name or some variation of it, so that depending on what device you want to log in with, whether it's a computer, tablet, or your phone, it's a URL that you can remember. So it'd be aladtec.com/your keyword. And that will end up right with your own login page where you'd log in with your credentials. Speaking of credentials, we here at TCP take security very seriously. So once we get your personnel uploaded into the database, we'll send out a welcome email, and that will have their username, which is usually their email address, and a link to create their own password. So nobody will know what their password is except for them. And then they will use those credentials to log in, and they will land right here on this homepage. So as you can see, we have Welcome EMS Professionals here. This is your homepage. So you can do whatever you want. We just have some text here just to demonstrate that. But you can certainly upload photos. You can use this as a whiteboard or announcements and things along those lines. Excuse me. Over on the right here, you can see the dashboard here. And as an administrator, I can see pending transactions, whether they're trades, signups, or any kind of personal time off, depending on what you recognize as an organization. I can also see down here expiration of fields, depending on what information you're capturing, whether they're certifications or any kind of other information that you track that needs to be re-upped annually or within a certain frequency. And that'll tell me if someone's going to be expiring soon, depending on the frequency of that data, or if they already have expired. I can click on either of these variables and it'll take me to another page and tell me who and what. So again, as an administrator, this navigation you see, I will show you the difference between this and an end user because it's slightly different. But for right now, I'm just going to click on members to get into the member database. And you can see over on the left where we have everybody listed. And if I hover over anybody's name, I can click on edit member, and that will allow me into their profile page. And as an administrator, I can come in and I can update this kind of information. As you can see, we have certifications, advanced certifications, and out of the box, you're going to get certain sections that are going to be preloaded with fields for you to use as you see fit. But as you're looking here, you may say, you know, I don't use those fields, or I'd like to capture additional information. And what you can do is I'm going to hover over members and I'm going to come down to the member database configurator. And now I have the options to either repurpose the fields that I have here or amend the database to my needs. And as you can see, I have an untitled section down here at the bottom where I can, repurpose this to perhaps emergency contact. Let me get that in here really quick, if I can spell. And now I have a new section here where I can determine, what their name is, what information is it that I want to capture, and what's their relationship to them. From there, now I just click on save, and I've just updated my database. So now, if I go back in and look at that individual, I can scroll down now and I can see that I have this new section, and I can capture that information however I wish. Also here in the database, what I want you to notice is over on the right here is this drop-down list where it comes with preloaded filters. So as you had noticed there was a certification section, I can just click right on that, and now I can view that section for everybody in my database. So if I need to amend this for everybody, I don't have to go in and out of everybody's profile. I can just simply update those fields for everybody from this view. One of the other benefits of this view is if I click on edit, I can turn on and off the various attributes of this page, and I'll show you this elsewhere in the system. But as I turn things on that I want to see, for instance, and I have it tweaked just the way I want it, I can certainly click on Save As, give it a name. I'll just call it Mine for right now, because it's mine, obviously. I save that now under the filters. Under my filters, I have mine, and I can always return to this in the future. I don't have to recreate the wheel. Okay, so moving along here, I'm just going to click on schedules here, and this is where I can obviously look at the schedules, see who's scheduled from what time to what time. Over on the right, up at the top right, you'll see that we have other options. We have day options, weekly, custom, pay period as well. As I'm looking at this right now, any of these options that we have can be your default view. It just happens that I have my system set up that the monthly calendar is my default view. And again, here's this little blue edit that I can click on. Again, I can turn on and off the various attributes of this page. For instance, if I only want to, I've got my East schedules, I've got my West schedules. I can, turn all these off, and I can just look at my East schedules if I want. As you can see, it reduces the footprint of this particular page as well. I can, create. I can click on Save As and create this as a view, and then I would have that to click on here. I could have an East view, I could have a West view, I can have an all view as well. And same with my additional schedules, whether I want to see scheduled time or open shifts for that matter. As I click apply here, you'll see that I have my secondary schedules that have open shifts for our members to sign up for. But if I wasn't interested in that, I can use my edit and I can turn off open shifts where I wouldn't have to look at that as they pertain to those particular schedules, any other schedules that I have open shifts. So you can tweak this however you want, and again, you can save them and create your own filters. Another thing from the schedule views is we do have what's called shift labels. Now, as we're looking at this from the EMS perspective, one of the most popular schedule rotations is called a Panama rotation. Others know it as a Pitman or a 2-2-3, where you basically work every other weekend, and you can designate that with colors and names. So I have in my setup these already preset. Now, just a quick sidebar, one of the things I want you to be aware of is you can run multiple sessions of Aladtec as you see fit. So I'm going to hover over this link of the organizational name up at the top here, and I'm going to right click on setup, and I'm going to open in a new tab. And now you can see I have two tabs in my browser that I can alternate back and forth with, and that way I don't have to lose my place on one page or another. Also, if you have multiple monitors, this is very useful, where I can take this session and I can move that to another monitor. And as long as I'm refreshing my page after I make one transaction or another, I can, increase my productivity with two different sessions running. That said, I'm now in setup, and I'm just going to come down to shift labels, and I already have this built for a Panama rotation. So I'm just going to enable it, and it automatically saves for me. I'm going to switch my tab. I'm going to refresh my page, and now you can see that I have A shift and B shift moving in the Panama rotation every other weekend. So depending on your organization, whether it's A shift, A platoon, first shift, first platoon, whatever it may be, you can customize that to your organization's needs. Now, while we're here, one of the things that I like to demonstrate here is the hourly editor, where you can go in and you can make changes for that particular day, for that particular 24-hour period. So as you can see, today is outlined on the 9th, but I'm going to look at, for instance, tomorrow. I'm going to see, perhaps the scenario is that Mr. Anderson isn't feeling well and he's going to call in sick. So what I can do as an administrator is I can hover right over that schedule name. So East ALS days, I'm going to hover right over that. And I'm going to click on edit schedule, which will take me into what we call the hourly editor. And it will allow me to make changes for this 24-hour period running from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. the next day. And let me point out again, here's my little blue edit where I can certainly turn things on and on again based on the attributes of this page. So I'm the officer on call. Mr. Anderson gives me a call, says he's not feeling well and he's not going to make it tomorrow. So as an administrator, I can come in, I can hover over these three little lines, also known as a hamburger. You may have heard that before. And I'm going to submit time off on behalf of Mr. Anderson, and I'm going to choose sick, and I will submit that as an administrator. And now what happens is it takes him off of the schedule. As I scroll down here, you can now see he's at the bottom of my availability page, and I can see he's off sick. So now I have, as an administrator, a couple things that I can do. First and foremost is I can send out an alert to my personnel, letting them know that I have a shift that I need coverage for. Excuse me. So you may see or may have noticed this little envelope up here by the date here. I can click on this, and that will take me to my coverage page. And it's just a quick 1, 2, 3 section to get this alert out. Now I can just simply click on send and broadcast, and this will go to all of my personnel based on 4 criteria. The first is that they have to be qualified for this particular schedule. They have to be qualified for this particular position. They can't be working during this time frame, and they can't be on approved time off. They can't be on vacation. They can't be sick or any other version of PTO. My number 2 here is, by default, it's only going to send it to unscheduled personnel, and then scheduled members or people on PTO are eliminated. But if needs be, I can certainly override that, and I can send it to that personnel, and then I can just click on send. I can look at the send to, and I can click on individuals, and this will show me all of the personnel that are qualified to receive this notification. And then over on the right, I've got a preview of what the email would look like. This is just a quick, I'm looking for, or my organization is looking for help for this schedule in this position on this date from this time to this time, with a link where they can go in and sign up. The text version of that, because of character limits, is going to be a little bit more succinct. Basically, we need help on this day, this time, schedule and position, log in, and sign up. Okay, and then I can just click on send, and then out it goes. Now, we also have another version of our notification. So the one I'm describing now is called a simultaneous notification, meaning that once I hit send, it's going to deliver that notification to all of my personnel simultaneously or at the same time. Now, we do have what's called staggered notifications, and this is a little bit more customizable, as in, I may, now that I have an open shift because Mr. Anderson is off sick, maybe I only want to fill that position with part-time people. So I can send it specifically to part-time people, and I can add other criteria. So in this case, I have a staggered notification configured that I can preview, and it's putting it in the order of, first it's by part-time people, so employee type, and then by hours, who has the most hours. And then it would just go right on down the line. It's going to select Tyler, it's going to send to him, it's going to wait a certain amount of time, and then if he doesn't reply or acknowledge the notification, it's going to move on to the next person, and then the next, and the next, and the next. So depending on your organization's needs for overtime and coverage, you can certainly configure that alert to your own criteria. Okay, so the next thing that I want to point out here is looking at this open shift again, where Mr. Anderson is missing here, is I may not need to fill this at all. So as I'm looking, I just opened up another tab. I use the shortcut key of holding down Control and clicking on a hyperlink, and that's not native to Aladtec. That's just a Windows shortcut, so you can use that all over the place. It's not, like I said, it's not just specific to Aladtec. But as I can see here on the calendar view, here's that open shift now that you can see that Mr. Anderson is out sick. Excuse me. But again, as I jump back into the hourly editor, I may not need to cover that. I may have other personnel within the day that I can either move from one schedule to another. So I can just simply turn on another schedule. I have my East and West schedules. I'll turn those on. And then as I scroll down, I can see these other schedules. So maybe I'm just going to borrow from West. I'm going to move Brian Bartow to the East days. And so it's just a quick pick them up. It's drag and drop. And it's just that simple. There's no save. It automatically updates, and it's a done deal. And the reason I move them is because perhaps this day is just really slow, and I don't need that much coverage. My EMT and my medic are both qualified as drivers, so I don't need that third person. So what I can do is I can just slide my block time over, and then I've closed that shift so I don't have any false needs. So when I go back to my calendar views and I refresh and we look at tomorrow, you can see I don't have any false needs. I don't have any open shifts. And you can see Brian is now up at East ALS and not West ALS. Now you may notice that there is no R next to Brian's name. It would have been down here in West because that's part of his rotation, because he's on the A shift Panama rotation. But now that I've moved him from West to East, he's now in a position that is not part of his rotation. So there are falls off because I have moved him. But that's what these R's mean. Excuse me. And I can click on any one of these R's and it's going to give me the details of this rotation. In this case, it's a 2-week. Like I said, it's either a Panama, Pittman, 2-week, whatever name you may know this rotation by. Okay. Excuse me. Also, while I'm in here in the hourly editor, when I move Brian, this is just fine that I've moved him from one schedule today to another. Let's say I put him back where he was. So I'm just gonna use my sliders to open up that shift, and I'm gonna click on his shift and drag him right back down and put him back. Let's say that I had sent out that alert, and I'm gonna pick on Robin here. And as an administrator, I can log in as an Aladtec administrator. Not our customers do not have this functionality as it is right now. I'll show you that in a little bit. But I'm gonna log in as Robin here for a moment. And I'm going to, and you may notice that the navigation is slightly different, but I'm gonna jump into my schedule for a second, and I'm going to sign up for that shift that I created because Mr. Anderson is out sick. So now when I return to my administrative login and I go back to the schedule views, I can see now that Robin has signed up for that particular open shift, okay? Now, I can go back into the hourly editor for that particular schedule, and you'll see here at the top that here's the sign up. Now, I can process it right here. I could also process it from the homepage as we looked at earlier, and I can change the time type, okay? So depending on how you want to capture information about shift time, whether it's regular time, or in this case, I'm going to call this coverage overtime, and I'm going to approve this. It'll put Robin in, and now this shift is under a different time type that I can report on, okay? By acknowledging and processing this this sign up, Robin has now gotten an email or a text letting her now know that her sign up was approved and she is now scheduled for this time. But I did want you to be aware that I can change the time type from whether it's a coverage overtime, whether it's overtime, holdovers, training, whatever you want to label this particular shift as, if it's other than regular time, so that you can report on it in whatever frequency you see fit. Okay, so as I kind of mentioned earlier, looking at the schedule, and you can see the R's on rotations, I just wanted to give you a quick glance at that generator. It's what we call repeats and rotations. So I'm going to switch tabs here. I'm going to hover over schedules, and I'm going to come down to repeats and rotations. And it's really quite simple. I'm just going to select a person. We'll just start with Mr. Anderson. As you can see, I've already created a rotation for him. Below this blue continue button, you can see the previous rotations, or in this case, the rotation that he's currently in. But it's as simple as selecting the member, the schedule you want to put them on, whatever time type you want to classify this rotation as, whatever position you want to put them in, and then the repetition type. And we have quite a few built in, whether it's weekly all the way up to a 12-week, customs that you can use. And we already add pre-built popular rotations from the different public safety industries, whether it's a 2448 from fire or the 223 that we're looking at now. It's the same thing. If you guys happen to have some sort of rotation that's a little unusual, as long as it goes in a circle, you can certainly call us at support and we'll write that rotation specifically for you and we'll add it to your library. So that's one of the other features that we can do for you here in the support department. But in this case, I like to use a 2-week rotation, and then it's just a matter of selecting the days that I want this individual to work. And then I just select the range of time. The shift time would be a 12-hour in this case, from 6 to 1800 or 6 to 6. And then the date range on when you want the rotation to begin and end, and you would just hit continue, and then you would put that person on that rotation. And then again, this case, this was done through the end of 2024. So I don't have to rebuild Mr. Anderson or any of his team's schedule over and over and over. I don't have to rebuild the wheel. I just have to manage him from this point going forward. So just a quick look at our rotational generator, letting you know that, rebuilding the wheel is time sensitive, not time sensitive, but it's cumbersome, and it's a lot of time that we don't need to be spending on when we can knock this out pretty quick. All right, so moving on from from schedules, I would like to take a quick look at forms. So when I click on forms here, you may have a lot of paper forms that you're using right now and you'd like to move to a digital version of that. What we would encourage you to do is come into our form section, and then you would just click on add new form. And this will take you to our library of forms. Like I had mentioned, there's 200 pre-made forms, 200 plus pre-made forms for you to take a look at with different categories that you can see here. Some of them hit the bullseye, some of them are just off the mark. And quite frankly, some of them aren't even close and that you would want to build from scratch. But I would certainly encourage you to take a look at any of these type pre-made forms, and you can repurpose whatever you need. Here's an orientation checklist. You can always repurpose these fields just like we looked at in the member database, repurpose the sections, add, subtract, whatever you need, but it's a starting point and hopefully speeds the whole process up. Next on the main navigation is reports. I'm not going to go through all the reports here, but we do have individual member reports that you can pull on, as it would sound like, each individual. Summary reports. We have a scheduled time report. When you come on as an Aladtec customer, you get the whole all-in-one solution. The only thing that's not available out of the box is what we call as a time clock. We do have that as an option, but that's an added feature. But if you do look into that particular feature, that actually does come with a time clock report that you would see here as well. We've got a trade report, and then we also have a payroll report. And I would encourage you, if you're interested in demoing this for your organization, just to take a quick look at all these various reports. But the one I want to demonstrate to you is the system log. Now, the system log is a read-only transactional log that nobody can change. I can't change it, you can't change it, nobody can change it. So this, as you can see, only myself has been logged in, action taken by Aladtec support, that's me. And you can see all the various things that I've been up to, where I logged in as Robin, signed up, the different, where I moved Brian, you can see how I repositioned him, where I had deleted block time, where I approved the time off for Scott, and so on and so forth as we go along. Okay, so I can use my edit once again, and again, turn on and off the various attributes of this page, but I can really narrow things down. I can look at actions taken by everybody in my organization, or actions that have affected a particular person in my organization. So, you know, someone was on the schedule, now they're not, what happened? I can go back in here and I can put that puzzle back together to get a full picture of what happened. So this particular report, the system log, is very useful. And even as simple as an administrator, you know, I might have accidentally deleted somebody off the schedule, but I have no idea who it was. So I can just quick and jump into the log and find out what I did. Pretty simple, and put that person back on. Okay, so next we have storage. This is really, you know, just an internal hard drive. You could look at it like that, where I can upload documents, videos, you know, maybe I have policies that my personnel should have access to wherever they want. I can create folders and add documents to them. I can have administrative folders. I can have a folder for each and every one of my employees, and that's where I'm going to store certain information about them, and so on and so forth. So this is, again, just another, you know, 200 gigs of free space that you can upload for your own purposes. Discussions, this is our version of a forum. Okay, so you can create categories, and then you can have topics within those categories and have internal conversations amongst your personnel, things along those lines. And then finally, we have our help section that has videos detailing the different transactions that you can personally do. Now there's, you know, videos for the end user, which I'm going to show you here in just a second, and then administrative videos to show you, you know, different options that you have about configuring your system, and best practices for using the different features that this system allows. Okay. So again, that's just kind of a high-level overview of the administrative side of things. Now, I want to jump back into an end user so you can see what it looks like from their perspective. So I'm going to switch from my perspective as an administrator to Scott Anderson. And he is just an end user, and I'm going to click on home again. And so as you can see, you know, the home page is very similar to what we looked at before, except for he doesn't have any administrative views as far as the dashboard is concerned. He's going to see his my schedule, his upcoming shifts, any events that are coming up, trades that he could participate in. If there's any threads in the discussion area, if you'd like to participate in those conversations, he certainly can. Okay. Then he's going to have his my info he can click on, and this is all the information related to himself, where he can go in, he can update his phone number, his email. If you'd like to have an additional email, he can add that in here. This is where he's going to configure how he wants to be notified about various things. If he requests time off, how does he want to be notified, whether it was approved or denied? Was it in email or text, or email and text? He can configure those things as he would like. And then other information, the general information, certifications. Here's that emergency contact section I had mentioned. He can fill that information out. Excuse me. From there, again, he can click on schedules, and this is identical to what you saw before, except, you know, it's highlighted with his particular shifts, his PTO, but he still has the same options before. You know, he can look at the daily summary views if he wants to, the weekly shifts view, or whatever he particularly cares for. As he's making changes, and same with all the personnel in the system, these are profile specific. So whatever he does is not going to affect the next person down the line. Okay. So again, if, you know, he likes the calendar view and he turns this, that, and the other thing off, maybe he doesn't care about secondary, he can turn that off. As I had mentioned before, he can do a save as, you can call it Scott's view, whatever the case may be, excuse me. Once he does that, again, there's the save, and now he has that as his own view. Now, between the monthly calendar and the daily summary, you know, as you look at the two, you can see they're obviously different pages. So his Scott's view isn't going to translate from one to another because the attributes of the page are different. So he would have to recreate that view in the daily summary view again. But and as he goes back to the monthly calendar, the other one would still be preserved. Okay. From here, I'm going to hover over schedule. I'm going to come down to the my schedule. Now, this is where we want everybody to go when it comes to the transactions of I'm requesting time off. I want to initiate a trade. I want to submit my availability or request extra hours and things of that nature, sign up for open shifts. Now, as an organization, you have the availability to say what an individual can do, whether you do allow people to submit time off or sign up for open shifts or request extra hours. That's an organizational setup, whether you allow that or not. But this is where everyone's going to do that. They're going to come in, they're going to hover over schedules and come down to their My Schedule. Over on the left, you see the legend of what the colors mean. You can turn things on and off, and so on and so forth. Open shifts, and so on. So we turn these things on and off. Now, you as an administrator, you have the availability to do certain transactions for your personnel. You can submit time off, as you had seen what I had done for Mr. Anderson earlier. You can submit time off on behalf of your members. You can perform trades on behalf of your members. You can submit extra hours and availability on behalf of your members. But what you can't do is you cannot sign up for open shifts on behalf of your members. I'm logged in as Scott, so that's why you see sign up. But if I was as myself, I would see these, but I wouldn't have the option to sign up. So you cannot sign up for open shifts on behalf of your members. You cannot fill out a form on behalf of your members, and you can obviously not log in on behalf of your members, but everything else you can. So as far as an end user, as Scott's concerned, he can come in and say, on the 15th here, he can just click on his shift. He can click on request a trade, and we have two versions. The giveaway is, I got tickets to the concert and I just need to get coverage for my shift today. I'm just going to broadcast a giveaway and hopefully someone will take the shift off of my hands. It's a one-sided transaction, one and done. The giveaway is the opposite. It's I'll work for you here if you work for me there. Both parties will agree to the payment and repayment. Once that's done, then it'll go to administration to approve. And then once that's been approved, the system will make the change on both sides of the schedule. So everyone will know what shift they're working and what shift they traded out of. PTO, same thing. They'll just click on their shift, request the time off, select what label they want to use, whether it's personal time, sick, vacation, or whatever PTO you recognize as an organization, and then they will just click request, and that will go to administration. You can hover over the date, and this is where you can add your availability if you allow that. So when you're available, you can be available, anytime. Maybe depending on your rotation, you can say you're available on your days off. If you're on a 24/48 rotation, you can say you're available on your days off, things along those lines. So that's where you can customize that. And then you can also request extra hours. So for instance, on last Sunday, perhaps Scott, there was a holdover, so he actually didn't leave until say 19:30. He can certainly hover over the date and submit extra hours and request time for that extra hour and a half from whatever schedule, whatever position he was in, and he could, perhaps request holdover time. And then that would go to administration to approve or deny. And then once these transactions have been processed, the system has updated. So all of this is now reportable and things along those lines. So you don't have to do any extra steps there. Also, reports, as you can see as I hover over reports, there's no child items like I had when I was an administrator. But Scott can click on reports, and all of this information is about himself. Okay, so he still has the day, week, custom, and monthly icons that he can click on to determine the frequency he wants to look at, and he can see any scheduled shifts he has, any PTO, any attributes. He would see if his CPR expiration had come up, that would be listed in red, and he can see that. And then storage, he can click on that. He'd be able to download any files that he has rights to, Again, here's discussions, and he can participate in any of the categories that have been created. And again, he can click on help, and he would see any of those videos that are related to the transactions that he's capable of performing. Okay, so that's an end user kind of walkthrough so that you get an idea of what it's like to be the end user. It's actually quite straightforward to be an end user. So I'm just going to click back on home here. It's been about 35 minutes. So I see that we've had some questions that Nancy's been answering. So I certainly want to encourage you guys to ask your questions. If you don't have time, you can certainly get back to us. So let me jump over to my screen here and let you guys know that you can always give us a call, whether you're an existing customer or as a new customer and you just have questions about the platform. By all means, you can certainly give us a call at 888-749-5550. Certainly, you can email us at aladtec.com, and you should have a link in the chat section. If you'd like to click on that, you can certainly begin a 14-day free trial if you'd like to. So I'm just going to take a quick look and see if we have any more questions that you guys would like us to address. Give that another minute or so here. Okay, so it doesn't look like we've got any other questions to answer. So thank you so much for joining us today to look at the Aladtec Workforce Management System. And I hope you guys have a great day.